Welcome to the Cashing In on Creativity podcast with artist, author, and creative business consultant, Bruce Outridge. Let's get started making money with your unique talent. On with the show.
Hello, welcome to the Cashing In on Creativity podcast. I'm your host, Bruce Outridge. This is episode number 229, and today we are going to tell you some of the changes that we've made to the podcast and some of the refocus we're doing and our new book club that we are starting. So stay tuned and we'll be right back. Hey folks, I got a book that I think you're going to love. It's called You're Not Done Yet. This is a book that I released in March 2020 and is a book that helps you figure out where you're going in life and figuring out some of the talents you got. Are you wondering what your purpose is for life? Are you wondering how to live your life to the fullest? Are you thinking that education is holding you back? Or maybe you just need to help focus your life with some of the values you've got. Why not merge your talent and your skills and make yourself an awesome life? I talk all about that in You're Not Done Yet. This is a book that is a real easy read. You can find it on Amazon or you can go to you'renotdoneyet.ca. Enjoy the book. And I hope that it helps you to focus your life. All right. So as you probably know that we started the podcast back in 2017. We're at 229 episodes, which is a feat for anybody who's doing podcasts. They know all about that. But we've been looking at it over the years, and we started the podcast in order to, bring the creative arts together, whether it be artists, visual artists, authors, musicians, anybody that's using their talent for art. As you know, I'm also a caricature artist and somebody that also does podcasting and a number of other things. And I really love being a creative, and I love the way that creatives work. And so we've been kind of focusing, and having different people on the podcast, and it's been a lot of fun learning about people. Absolutely amazing. But it's been also very hard for growth, because what happens is people see musician interviews, and if they're visual artists, they go, oh, that's not interesting. The whole idea of the podcast, when I put it together, was that we learn from each other. And when I'm launching a book, let's say, I look at the way a musician would launch a record album and to get ideas from that. And that was the whole idea when we first started the podcast of what we wanted it to do. But we understand that, people may not be interested in listening to all the episodes if it's not about their particular niche. So we decided to change it a little bit. And one of the things that we thought we would do is it's really about, I'm a firm believer in everybody has what it takes to get it done if you're willing to put in the work. And so we've decided to change the podcast so that it's a little more about the artist in whole and not so much about each individual niche, because people are starting to, and we have a lot of musicians, I happen to know a lot of musician friends. And so we get a lot of people who are thinking that, it's the show's all about musicians, and it's not. It's really about learning from each other. And so we've decided to change this a little bit to where it is now going to be for everybody. And the areas that we're focusing on are personal growth. Okay, so we think that's really important. Of course, marketing and business will continue to be at the forefront, and we will continue to have inspirational interviews because we really I believe it's so exciting to learn about other people's lives. And some people that you think are really big stars and wouldn't talk to you, and then others that you don't really know, and they're doing these amazing things. And so that's what the podcast is about. So we're going to focus on personal growth. We're going to focus on business and marketing. They're kind of together. And then we're also going to have the inspirational interviews. And then I thought one thing that I wanted to do that I thought would be really good for everybody. You probably heard it. You've seen it at Oprah. She's had Oprah's book club. I thought we would start a book club. And the reason I wanted to start the book club was I was looking I used to love to read. I still love to read. But when you get into podcasting and all of that, reading kind of takes a back seat. You're still getting lots of information, but you're getting it through audio and visual information instead of reading. And I really think it's important to read. And I always usually have a goal for myself of reading one book a month. And I thought, okay, the last year or so, I've kind of gotten away from that just because of the way business has worked. And so I haven't been able to read that book a month. I think in 2020, I probably read 3 books. So I thought, well, what a better way to kind of, make myself accountable, help everybody else at the same time, and improve our personal growth than to start a book club. So you don't have to read the book I'm reading, but here's the idea of the book club, is we're going to start the book club, and I'm choosing books based on what I think I need to work on. So you may not need to work on these. But I thought, you know what, let's start the book club on what I'm going to choose a book. You guys can read that book if you want. You can read another book that's on the same topic, or you can just read a book just to keep yourself accountable. I'm going to introduce that at the beginning of each month, and then at the beginning of the next month, we will recap that book, introduce the next book. So that's kind of how it's going to work. So for this month, for January 2021, for the very first book club, official book club, I thought we're going to start with a book called The Art of War. Now, this is not a new book. I didn't even buy it. Someone else gave it to me. And I've had it. I keep all my books. I either keep them and reread them again, or I give them to somebody. If somebody says, hey, I'm having a challenge with this topic, I might say, hey, here's a book that I thought was really helpful. So one of the challenges that I'm having for myself is competition. And we all love competition. Competition keeps things healthy. It keeps prices down. But at the same time, when you're the kind of person that struggles a little bit with competition, and especially since the pandemic. I mean, I've got 2 podcasts, a radio station, and a television show. And when someone else starts up a podcast, especially in my niche, I get very nervous. Now, I don't know why, but I just do. I just get, well, you know what? Maybe they're going to take my audience, and I'm sure there's enough for all of us. No one's listening to. So, one thing that helps me, it keeps me trying to improve, because I always want to kind of stay in the forefront as a leader in that space, if possible. The other thing is, I think a lot of it is lack of education. As being a high school dropout, over the years, I've corrected that, gone back to school, learned a lot of things. But at the same time, in the back of your mind, you're always thinking you're never really good enough. And so I thought, okay, one of the problems that I want to solve is I don't want to get all stressed out every time somebody starts something similar to me. I've been doing it a long time. I work on perfecting it the best I can. And I shouldn't be worried about somebody coming into the same space, but I am. And I think we all need to keep an eye on our competition. As they say, keep your competition close, keep your friends close, keep your competition closer. But there is a point where, because there's so many people starting things that are similar to what I've been doing for a number of years, that I need to kind of figure out, and it's more from myself inside than it is the people starting it up. It's not that they are threatening or have done anything to make me feel like they're not trying to steal my customers or anything like that. It's just a personal thing. So I think that's something I need to work on. So whenever I was putting in a search for what is a good book to start with, The Art of War kept coming up. And that's why I decided that I'm going to start with The Art of War. Now, let me tell you about this book, because this book was not a business book. It actually started out as a book to kind of challenge your competition in war. Like it was created back in 2,500 years ago. So the book is originally created by Chinese philosopher Sun Tzu. I'm not sure if I'm saying that name right, but the last name is TZU. Who's now a classic treatise. And The Art of War was written more than 2,500 years ago. Originally a text for victory on the battlefield, the book was vastly transcended into its original purpose. So the book that I'm reading has been rewritten by James Clavell. And this book was revised. This is the The one I'm reading here is the 1983 version, I believe. So this is a seminal book on the philosophy of successful leadership that is applicable to contemporary business as it is to war. Today, many leading American business schools use the text as a required reading for aspiring managers, and even Oliver Stone's award-winning film Wall Street cites The Art of War as a guide to those who strive for success. Now acclaimed novelist James Clavell, for whom Sun Tzu's writing has been an inspiration, gives us a newly edited Art of War. Author of the best-selling Asian saga consisting of Shogun, Taipan, King Rat, Noble House, and Whirlwind. Clavell first heard about Sun Tzu in Hong Kong in 1977, and since then The Art of War has been his constant companion. He refers to it frequently in Noble House. He has taken a 1910 translation of the book and clarified it for the contemporary reader. This new edition of The Art of War was an extraordinary book made even more relevant by an extraordinary editor. And I've heard this book come up many times when talking with friends in business, and seen it on people's desks and stuff like that. There's a couple different sizes and versions out. So I'm reading a paperback here. You can find it in any of your local bookstore or book, if you're on like Apple Books or whatever. You can find it. You don't have to read this. I'm not asking you to go buy anything. I'm suggesting that maybe if that's what we're going to read and talk about this month is the competition and how you deal with people coming up in your space. And I know for a lot of artists, it's a fine line, right? They're competition, but I work with a lot of my competition too. We're also friends. We also, many times will give each other work and that kind of thing. So I don't know if that's something that you struggle with. It's something that I struggle with. And I think that's something that as artists, we all struggle with, because art is very subjective and there's always somebody coming out with something more creative and another way of doing things. And if you're not the kind of person that is able to say, okay, yeah, I'm standing strong in my space doing what I do, then that might be an issue. And so I thought it was a good place for us to start. I'm welcoming people to send in questions, responses. If you have a good book or you have a good topic or something that you're struggling with, then hey, let's maybe choose a book, and feel free to suggest books. Doesn't necessarily have to be my book club necessarily. It's just this is where we're going to start with one, and hopefully we'll read it for the month of January. So this is keeping me accountable that I'm going to finish this book by the time I have to do my February shows, so that the first week is February 1, and I encourage people to read along with me, whether you're reading along this book or another book about that. And if happy to have people come on and talk about how that's affecting them. So that's one of the things that I thought we would do. So that's going to be the new focus. So we have the kind of new focus for the show, which is going to be more on personal development for creatives and artists. We're going to have business and marketing as usual, how to have a successful business and market it. Inspirational interviews from artists as they come along. And we have a great one coming out. The next episode is going to be a guy named Mark Dawson, who, if you know the Grassroots, which is an older band, rock and roll band, he's been in the music business for many, many years. So he'll be joining me on the podcast. And then we've got some other stuff coming up. So hopefully that's going to help keep us kind of more focused, offer some different guests, and no matter what genre you're in, hopefully going to help you do that, help you, be successful in whatever you're doing. The other thing that we're doing is, you probably are going to notice, starting this episode, we are removing our tune of the week. So we always had a tune of the week for every show. The reason that we had that is because I wanted to profile so many of the great musicians that we've had on the show, and people that are in there since August. For my other, I don't know, for those you may not know, I've got another podcast called the Lead Pedal Podcast for truck drivers. That's in the trucking industry. I drove for 25 years. I'm extremely heavy into that industry, still very active there. Don't drive anymore, but the podcast has over 570 episodes so far, and it's a daily show. But I've always had a real passion for music, as you've probably heard me talk about many times here on the show. And so I thought, you know what, I'll start a radio station. So I started a radio station back in August. It's more trucking music. It's country, rock, and reggae. But it's not just for the trucking industry. A lot of it is. A lot of the shows are geared towards the truck driver. But it's a place where I can really, kind of expand music and play more music and have all those kind of people. So it kind of meshes the two podcasts. It kind of meshes, what's going on here in the bands, and it brings in the trucking podcast and kind of meshes it together in what we call Lead Pedal Radio. So it's based on the other podcast, which is called the Lead Pedal Podcast. So this one's called Lead Pedal Radio, and it's a lot of fun. I'm having a ball doing it. We have all kinds of shows. So that's where we're featuring the music. So both podcasts used to have a tune for every show. We've now taken out that music, and because we have it all on the radio station. So you can certainly still go there. You can still hear all the great people we've had on, like Thomas Wade and Killing Time Band and all that kind of stuff. Plus, the other reason that we took the music out is people like Spotify and some of these other platforms are getting really strong about people having music in their podcasts. We haven't had any issues up to date, but we just don't want to have any issues for the future. So we've decided this is a good time because we've got the radio station. We still get to do what we were planning on doing. We've just moved it a little bit. So I invite you to go over to leadpedalradio.com. Lead is spelled L-E-A-D. It's kind of a play on words, but it's leadpedalradio.com, and join us for some of the shows there. We've got, there's not all trucking shows. We've got comedy shows. We've got Tropical Days show, which is kind of a show where it's all Caribbean reggae music. We've got kind of, if you like country, you'll love pretty well all the shows. We've got some rock shows. We've got some live concert series, which happen every night, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights as well. We have a trucking top 10 game, which is really not, it's 10 questions, but it's not really all about trucking. Sometimes they are, but a lot of times they're about movies or music or whatever. So anybody can play along, and that's Monday nights. And so we have a lot of good programming going on. We got the Soul Effects radio show with Robert Mayer Jr., where he profiles young musicians. So there's lots of stuff going on that I think you'll enjoy, whether you're in the trucking industry or not. So I invite you to go to leadpedalradio.com to check all of that out. And so you won't see music here anymore, but hopefully you'll still enjoy the show and still get some great information. Thanks for listening. Hey, Happy New Year to you. Hope you guys have a wonderful 2021 and beyond, and look forward to staying with us. So our first book is going to be The Art of War. It's by James Clavell, the one I'm reading, but there are a couple different versions. You might be reading one from 2,500 years ago. But I'm excited to see how this works because I've heard a lot of good things about this book. So I will report back in February for you. Have a great one. I'll put the link to the book in the show notes if you want to go ahead and read it. If you've got something else, feel free to leave us a comment so we can do. Thanks for listening. Hey, make sure you check us out. Follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can find me on LinkedIn, and I look forward to having a great 2021 with you. Bye for now.
Need to know more about your host or the show? Check out your host at bruceoutridge.com and learn more about the show at cashinginoncreativitypodcast.com.